The office building was alive with chatter and movement, every floor bustling with people hurrying to meetings, checking emails, and making phone calls. On the top floor, the penthouse suite gleamed with luxury, filled with expensive furniture, priceless paintings, and a grand piano that seemed to dominate the room. The billionaire who owned it all was sitting at the piano, tapping his fingers lightly on the keys, a smirk on his face. He loved attention, loved the power he held, and loved throwing challenges that no one expected anyone to actually meet. He turned to the crowd of employees gathered around him and raised his hand for silence. The room quieted immediately, curiosity and skepticism flickering in everyone's eyes. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the piano, and said, "I will make a challenge that no one here can resist. If anyone can perform this piano piece flawlessly, I will marry you." He laughed loudly at his own joke, expecting the employees to join in the laughter, mocking the idea of such a ridiculous reward. Most of the staff chuckled nervously, unsure if he was serious or just looking for amusement. Among the crowd, a janitor stood quietly near the back, his mop resting against his shoulder. He had been sweeping the floors of this building for years, unnoticed by most people. He knew the routine of every room, the creak of every floorboard, and the hum of every machine. But there was one thing no one knew about him. He could play the piano. Not just simple tunes, but complex pieces that required skill, emotion, and years of practice hidden away from the world. He had learned by listening to recordings, by teaching himself, and by sneaking moments on old pianos that were long forgotten in some dusty corner. Music had been his companion when no one else was around, and it had always made him feel powerful and free. The janitor's heart beat a little faster. He had heard the challenge and, despite the billionaire's mocking tone, he felt a spark of excitement. A part of him wanted to step forward and play, to show the world the talent he had kept secret for so long. But he hesitated, knowing the odds were against him. The crowd of employees would laugh, the billionaire would scoff, and he might even be embarrassed in front of everyone. Still, he couldn't shake the thought that this could be his moment to shine. The employees whispered among themselves, some joking about who might try to play. Nobody thought a janitor would even consider it, and if he did, they assumed it would be a disaster. The billionaire tapped the piano again, signaling the beginning of the challenge, and said, "Anyone who thinks they can beat this, come forward. I'm waiting." His eyes scanned the crowd, daring someone to step up. He expected silence. He expected mockery. He did not expect what happened next. The janitor's hands itched to touch the keys. He imagined the music in his mind, each note flowing perfectly, every movement precise. He could hear the melody before it even reached the piano, and for a moment he felt a calm confidence. He glanced around, noticing the smirks and whispers, but they did not deter him. He knew this was more than a challenge. This was a chance to show that talent could exist in places no one looked, that brilliance could come from those who were overlooked. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, the room suddenly feeling colder as eyes turned toward him. Gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd. Employees nudged each other, some whispering, "Is that the janitor? He's going to play." The billionaire's smirk turned into a raised eyebrow, curiosity replacing arrogance. He hadn't expected this. He hadn't anticipated that someone would actually take the challenge seriously, especially someone who had spent years quietly moving through the hallways, unseen and unnoticed. The janitor walked to the piano, each step measured and calm. He didn't look nervous, even though his heart was pounding inside his chest. He placed his hands on the keys and closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the familiar texture beneath his fingers. The room held its breath. The billionaire leaned back, crossing his arms, a mix of amusement and disbelief on his face. The employees stared, unsure of what to expect, some thinking it would be over in a few seconds, a failed attempt that would leave everyone laughing. Then he began to play. The first notes filled the room, soft but precise. The music flowed like water, gentle yet commanding. Each key he pressed seemed to tell a story, carrying emotion and depth that no one had anticipated. The melody was beautiful, complex, and perfectly executed. Whispers turned into silence, and even the billionaire stopped fidgeting, leaning forward to listen. The sound was more than skill. It was passion, years of hidden practice and dedication wrapped into every movement of his hands. People in the room were transfixed. The employees who had mocked the idea moments ago now watched in awe, unable to look away. The music carried them, touching something deep inside each listener. The janitor played as if he had been waiting his whole life for this moment, and in a sense, he had. Every note was a declaration, every chord a statement that brilliance could come from the most unexpected places. The billionaire's face changed slowly, from smirk to shock, then to admiration. He had thrown the challenge expecting a laugh, expecting someone to fail, and instead he was witnessing something extraordinary. The janitor's hands moved with a confidence that belied his humble appearance, and it became clear that this was no ordinary performance. The melody was flawless, a demonstration of skill and heart that left the room silent for the final lingering notes. As the last note faded, the room remained still. The employees looked at each other, eyes wide, mouths slightly open. The janitor lifted his hands from the keys, a small, humble nod acknowledging the audience, not for praise, but for the shared moment they had experienced. The billionaire's jaw was clenched, his eyes wide, trying to process what had just happened. The mockery had vanished, replaced by a respect he had never expected to feel. Someone finally whispered, He actually did it." Murmurs of agreement spread quickly, and the room erupted in quiet applause, growing louder as people realized the truth. The janitor had not just met the challenge. He had surpassed everyone's expectations. The billionaire, usually the center of attention, felt a strange sense of humility, a recognition that talent could not be bought, could not be commanded, and certainly could not be mocked into submission. The janitor stepped back, returning to his mop, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But inside, he felt a quiet triumph. He had shown the world a piece of who he was, a hidden talent that no one could take away. The crowd continued to buzz, some still in disbelief, some whispering about the skill they had just witnessed, and the billionaire finally spoke, a hint of respect in his voice. "Well, that was impressive. I did not expect anyone to be able to do that." He paused, then added, "Maybe I underestimated someone in this building." For the janitor, it was not about recognition or the promise of reward. It was about the joy of sharing something he loved, the satisfaction of proving to himself that dedication and passion could shine through, even in a place where he had been overlooked for years. The day would be remembered not just for the challenge, but for the moment when hidden talent emerged from the most unlikely place, changing the way everyone in the room saw him, and perhaps even changing the way they saw the world. As the crowd slowly dispersed, talking in excited tones, the janitor quietly returned to his work, sweeping the floor with a newfound sense of pride. He knew this was only the beginning. The world had caught a glimpse of his ability, and while he would continue his simple life, the music had already spoken for him. The billionaire watched him, still processing the event, and for the first time, he wondered about the stories and talents that went unnoticed every day, behind the walls of his empire. After the astonishing performance in the office, the janitor returned to his small apartment, a modest space filled with simple furniture and a few cherished items. The apartment smelled faintly of coffee and cleaning supplies, and sunlight streamed through thin curtains, casting warm patterns across the worn floor. He placed his mop against the wall and sat at the edge of his bed, reflecting on what had happened earlier. His heart still raced with a mixture of excitement and disbelief, and he couldn't stop thinking about the expressions on the faces of the employees and the billionaire. For years, he had hidden his talent, playing in quiet solitude, yet today he had shared it with the world. The thought filled him with a quiet satisfaction. He pulled out a small notebook from under his bed, one he used to jot down melodies and musical ideas whenever inspiration struck. The pages were filled with sketches of music, notes, and chords that he had carefully crafted over the years. Each page represented hours of practice, moments of trial and error, and the joy of discovering his own voice in music. As he flipped through them, memories of late nights spent learning complex pieces on an old, out-of-tune piano surfaced. He remembered the frustration of making mistakes, the patience required to perfect each phrase, and the quiet triumph of finally mastering a piece. Meanwhile, back at the office, the story of the janitor's incredible performance had begun to spread. Employees could not stop talking about what had just happened. Some whispered in the hallways, recounting every detail of the performance, the precision of his fingers, the emotion in every note, and the calm confidence he displayed. Others had already started posting about it on social media, sharing the unbelievable story with friends and family. The office, which had felt ordinary and predictable just the day before, suddenly felt different. There was a new sense of wonder and excitement, and even those who had mocked the challenge could not deny the impact of the performance. The billionaire, however, was not used to being impressed. He had built his empire on confidence, risk-taking, and a certain arrogance that allowed him to challenge anyone without fear. Yet, seeing the janitor play had shifted something inside him. He couldn't help but acknowledge that he had misjudged the quiet figure he had overlooked for years. For the first time, he saw the value in looking beyond appearances, realizing that talent and brilliance could reside where he least expected. He spent the rest of the day replaying the performance in his mind, unable to shake the feeling of being humbled by someone he had considered insignificant. In his apartment, the janitor reflected on what this new attention could mean. He was not used to recognition, fame, or public admiration. Music had always been a private joy, a way to express emotions that words could not capture. Yet now, the world had witnessed his skill, and he knew he could no longer remain completely invisible. He felt a responsibility to continue sharing his talent, not for the sake of praise, but to inspire and connect with others through the power of music. He also understood that this moment was an opportunity to explore possibilities he had never imagined, doors that had always seemed closed due to his humble position. He spent the evening practicing in his small apartment, imagining an audience larger than the office lobby, visualizing the notes traveling across the room, reaching people who had never heard such music before. He experimented with new techniques, tested different rhythms, and allowed himself to improvise. Music flowed through him as naturally as breathing, each note carrying his experiences, struggles, and hopes. It was a liberating feeling, one he had rarely allowed himself to experience in full freedom. As the night wore on, he realized that the challenge at the office had been just the beginning, a spark that ignited something far greater within him. The next morning, as he walked through the familiar streets on his way to work, he noticed subtle changes in the way people looked at him. Some smiled knowingly, others whispered to each other, and a few approached him to compliment his performance. He was polite and humble, thanking them with a quiet nod. While he appreciated their admiration, he remained grounded, understanding that the music itself was more important than the recognition it brought. Each interaction, however, reminded him that his life had shifted, that he had touched the lives of others through his gift. At the office, whispers continued to spread. The employees debated whether the janitor would perform again, and what this meant for the billionaire who had set the challenge. Many were eager to see if he could repeat his incredible performance, while others wondered how he had acquired such talent without formal training or recognition. Conversations buzzed with curiosity and amazement, and the once predictable office environment now felt alive with possibilities. The janitor became a quiet symbol of talent that defied expectations, a reminder that brilliance could emerge from the most unlikely places. Despite the growing attention, the janitor maintained his routine. He cleaned the floors, polished the windows, and carried out his duties with the same care and dedication as before. Yet his perspective had changed. He approached each task with a newfound sense of purpose, seeing value in his work and the world around him. He realized that life was not only about following routines or fulfilling expectations, but about embracing opportunities to share one's gifts, even when the world seemed indifferent. Each small step, each moment of dedication, contributed to a larger journey that was unfolding before him. The janitor's evenings were filled with quiet practice and reflection. He explored new pieces, composed his own music, and occasionally played simple melodies for neighbors or friends who would stop by. Each performance, no matter how small, reminded him of the joy and freedom that music brought into his life. He began to dream of possibilities beyond the office, imagining performances in local halls, small concerts, or even collaborations with other musicians. The challenge had opened his eyes to a world of opportunity, one that he had never dared to explore before. At the same time, the billionaire could not shake the memory of the performance. He replayed the music in his mind, analyzing every note, every movement of the janitor's hands. He began to wonder how someone with so little apparent advantage could possess such talent. The experience challenged his assumptions about success, ability, and worth. He realized that his wealth and influence did not define the limits of achievement, and that extraordinary skill could reside in anyone, regardless of position or background. It was a lesson in humility and perception that he had not anticipated but could not ignore. Days passed, and the janitor continued to live his life with quiet determination. He balanced work, practice, and reflection, finding meaning in both his responsibilities and his music. The attention from colleagues and strangers grew, yet he remained focused on the essence of his craft rather than the accolades. He understood that recognition was fleeting, but mastery and passion were lasting. Each day became an opportunity to refine his skill, to explore new musical landscapes, and to share his gift with those who could appreciate it. Through it all, he maintained a sense of humility and groundedness. He did not let fame or curiosity alter who he was at his core. Music had always been his refuge, a space where he could express emotions, tell stories, and connect with others. The experience of performing at the office and witnessing the reactions of those around him reinforced the power of authenticity, dedication, and quiet confidence. He realized that true greatness often lies not in public recognition but in the courage to pursue one's passion with sincerity and heart. The janitor's journey was just beginning. The office challenge had revealed his talent to the world, but it had also illuminated the potential for growth, exploration, and connection. Each day brought new experiences, new challenges, and new opportunities to inspire others through music. While his life remained humble in many ways, it was filled with purpose, fulfillment, and the quiet knowledge that he had touched the hearts of those who had witnessed his gift. The future was uncertain, but he faced it with confidence, curiosity, and an unwavering commitment to his passion. In this way, the janitor's story unfolded, a tale of hidden talent, perseverance, and the transformative power of music. He had emerged from the shadows, not for fame or fortune, but to share the beauty of his gift with the world. And as he continued his journey, he carried with him the lessons of humility, dedication, and the quiet strength that comes from believing in oneself, even when the world seems unaware. The challenge at the office had been only the beginning, a spark that would ignite a lifetime of creativity, connection, and the joy of sharing music with others. The day of the official performance had arrived, and the office lobby was transformed into a stage. Chairs were set up, a small crowd of employees and invited guests gathered, and cameras were positioned to capture every moment. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, curiosity, and excitement. The billionaire, dressed impeccably as always, sat near the front, a mixture of skepticism and intrigue written on his face. He had witnessed the janitor's first performance and could not forget it, but he was still unsure what to expect now. Would the janitor repeat the brilliance, or was the previous display a lucky accident? The janitor arrived quietly, carrying nothing more than his calm confidence. He walked through the lobby, unnoticed by some, but the murmurs quickly began. Whispers spread about the remarkable janitor who had stunned everyone before, and people leaned forward, eager to see the moment repeated. Despite the growing attention, the janitor remained composed, his focus entirely on the piano waiting for him at the center of the room. He approached the instrument, each step measured and deliberate, feeling the familiar thrill that came with touching the keys. As he sat down, the room fell silent. The cameras rolled, capturing the expressions of the audience, the billionaire, and the janitor himself. The audience, still amazed from the previous performance, watched intently, unsure of what would unfold. The janitor closed his eyes for a brief moment, allowing the music in his mind to take shape, every note, rhythm, and emotion carefully visualized. He could feel the anticipation in the room, but it did not unsettle him. Instead, it fueled his concentration and passion. When his fingers first touched the keys, a hush fell over the audience. The initial notes were soft, almost delicate, but full of precision and control. The janitor played with a fluidity that seemed natural, each hand moving independently yet harmoniously. The music began to tell a story, capturing the attention of everyone present. The billionaire's expression shifted from curiosity to awe, and even the most skeptical employees could not look away. The melody was rich and layered, a combination of technical skill and heartfelt emotion that resonated with everyone listening. The janitor's hands moved with purpose and confidence, weaving a narrative through sound. Every chord, every pause, and every crescendo was intentional, conveying not just a sequence of notes but a feeling, an experience that everyone could connect with. Some audience members felt their eyes grow wet as they were moved by the music, unable to articulate the emotions it stirred. The janitor's performance was not just a display of talent. It was a bridge between him and the listeners, a connection that transcended words. The billionaire watched closely, his usual arrogance replaced with genuine respect. He had been used to commanding attention, to seeing people bow to his will, yet here was someone who had captured the entire room's focus effortlessly. He realized that true skill and passion could not be bought or demanded. They had to be nurtured and lived. He felt a rare humility as he listened, acknowledging that he had underestimated the janitor's dedication and talent. As the performance continued, the music swelled and receded like waves on a shore. The janitor's expression remained calm, but his mind and heart were fully immersed in every note. The audience was captivated, caught in the ebb and flow of sound that carried both complexity and beauty. It was clear that this was no ordinary performance. The janitor was not simply playing a piece. He was creating an experience, one that touched the emotions and minds of those listening. Employees whispered to each other, some expressing disbelief, others admiration. "How does he do this?" one asked quietly. Another replied, "I don't know, but it's incredible." The sounds of the piano filled every corner of the room, leaving no space untouched by the music. People who had doubted the janitor now watched in awe, realizing that they had witnessed something extraordinary. The performance was not just a demonstration of skill. It was proof that talent could exist in unexpected places, and that brilliance could emerge from those who were often overlooked. The janitor's hands flew over the keys with precision, creating moments of tension and release that held the audience's attention completely. Each phrase was carefully constructed, yet it flowed naturally, as if the music had always existed within him, waiting for the right moment to be shared. The room seemed to hold its breath during the quiet passages, then erupted internally as the powerful crescendos washed over them. It was a roller coaster of emotion, a journey through sound that left no listener untouched. Even the billionaire, who had set the challenge as a playful test, felt a deep sense of respect and admiration. He leaned forward in his seat, captivated by the performance, understanding for the first time that greatness was not defined by wealth or position, but by dedication, passion, and authenticity. He realized that the janitor had something he had rarely seen in his life: the ability to move people through art, to inspire them with skill born of love and perseverance. As the final notes rang out, the room remained silent for a moment, as if everyone was collectively holding their breath, reluctant to break the spell. Then, slowly, applause began to rise, growing in intensity until the entire room erupted in appreciation. People clapped, cheered, and even some wiped tears from their eyes. The janitor lifted his hands from the keys, acknowledging the audience with a humble nod, his calm demeanor unchanged despite the overwhelming response. The billionaire finally spoke, his voice steady but filled with newfound respect. "That was extraordinary. I have never seen anyone play like that, not even professionals I've encountered. You have my utmost admiration." The words carried sincerity, a recognition that went beyond simple praise. It was an acknowledgement of the janitor's talent, dedication, and the courage it took to step forward and share it. The audience continued to buzz with excitement, recounting moments of the performance and marveling at the skill they had witnessed. Employees who had doubted him before now looked at him with admiration, realizing that appearances could be deceiving and that true talent often resides in places least expected. The janitor, while grateful for the applause and attention, remained grounded. He understood that the music itself was the true reward, the connection it created far more valuable than recognition or accolades. After the performance, some employees approached him with quiet compliments. Others asked questions about his training and background. He answered humbly, emphasizing the joy and discipline of practicing music rather than any desire for fame. The atmosphere in the office shifted. People began to treat him with a mix of respect and curiosity, no longer seeing him solely as a janitor, but as a person with extraordinary ability and depth. The janitor returned to his mop and cleaning duties later that day, carrying a quiet pride. The performance had changed not only how others saw him but also how he saw himself. He had stepped into a spotlight he never sought, proving that talent and passion could not be contained by circumstance or social perception. The experience reinforced his belief in the value of dedication, perseverance, and authenticity. Meanwhile, the billionaire could not stop thinking about the performance. He realized that challenges, tests, and stunts were entertaining, but they could never replace genuine skill and heart. He had learned an important lesson about humility, about seeing beyond the surface, and about recognizing the hidden potential in those around him. The janitor's performance was a reminder that greatness could exist anywhere, and that it deserved respect, no matter the source. As the day ended, the janitor returned home, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. He sat by his piano, replaying the performance in his mind, considering what he could improve, and planning future practice sessions. The applause and praise were meaningful, but they were secondary to the joy he felt in making music, in expressing himself through the instrument he loved. He understood that the true value of the experience lay in the act of creating, sharing, and connecting through music. The janitor's journey had reached a pivotal moment. The office challenge had provided a platform, but it was only a glimpse of what he could achieve. He knew that dedication, practice, and passion would continue to shape his life, opening doors to opportunities he had never imagined. Each performance, each note played with care and heart, was a step toward realizing his full potential. He had shared his gift with the world, and in doing so had changed not only how others saw him but also how he saw himself. That evening, as the janitor played alone in his apartment, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The performance at the office had been extraordinary, but the music itself, the pure act of creation, was what truly mattered. He reflected on the connections he had made, the emotions he had stirred, and the courage it had taken to step forward. In that quiet moment, he realized that talent, when paired with heart and perseverance, had the power to transform lives, inspire change, and leave a lasting impact. After the unforgettable performance, life began to shift for the janitor, though in subtle ways at first. He returned to his work in the office building, still cleaning floors, emptying trash, and maintaining the spaces that had once felt routine. Yet now, the eyes that followed him were different. There was respect in the way colleagues glanced at him, curiosity in their hushed whispers, and even admiration in the tone of their greetings. People began to see him not just as the janitor who kept the building clean, but as a person with extraordinary talent, capable of inspiring everyone around him. The buzz from the office performance continued to spread outside the building. Social media had picked up the story quickly, and soon the janitor's name was appearing in local news articles and videos online. Headlines celebrated the janitor who played like a genius, and clips of his performance were shared widely. People from different parts of the city and even the country marveled at the story. For the janitor, this was a new experience. He was not used to attention, interviews, or public curiosity. The idea that strangers were talking about him made him both nervous and proud. He realized that his quiet life had changed, and that his music had opened doors he had never imagined. Despite the growing recognition, the janitor remained humble. He continued his daily routines, arriving early to clean, sweeping floors, and polishing windows with the same care as before. He did not let fame or attention distract him from his work or his passion. In the evenings, he returned to his small apartment, practicing on his piano, exploring new melodies, and perfecting the skills that had brought him to this moment. Music remained his refuge, the place where he felt most alive and most connected to himself. The applause and praise were gratifying, but they were secondary to the joy of creating and expressing through sound. The billionaire, however, had been deeply affected by the janitor's talent. He had never expected such skill, such emotion, and such dedication to emerge from someone he had long overlooked. The performance challenged his assumptions about people, ability, and value. He began to see that talent was not limited to those with wealth or status, and that brilliance could be found in unexpected places. The experience left him with a sense of humility he had rarely felt, a recognition that he could learn from those he had previously dismissed. In the weeks that followed, the janitor received invitations to perform in small local events, community gatherings, and even educational programs. People wanted to hear his music, to witness the skill and emotion that had captivated the office. He accepted these invitations selectively, choosing opportunities that aligned with his love for music rather than for fame or money. Each performance became an opportunity to connect with others, to inspire them, and to share the joy that music had always given him. His calm and genuine approach made a strong impression, and audiences responded with warmth, admiration, and encouragement. Back at the office, the employees had also changed. They no longer saw the janitor as just a background presence. They recognized him as a person of talent and integrity. Many sought his advice on music. Others simply expressed curiosity and admiration. Conversations about him became frequent, and he was invited to participate in activities that had previously been far beyond his reach. The dynamic in the building shifted subtly, with a renewed sense of possibility and inspiration among the staff. The janitor's quiet strength and humility had become a model for others, showing that greatness could emerge without loud declarations or displays of power. The janitor's evenings remained devoted to music. He experimented with new compositions, explored different styles, and occasionally helped friends and neighbors understand the intricacies of piano. Each session was a reminder of why he had dedicated so much of his life to practice. The discipline, patience, and love for music that had been cultivated over years of quiet effort were now being celebrated, and he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Yet he remained grounded, understanding that the true reward was not recognition, but the ability to touch hearts through music. The billionaire, meanwhile, began to reflect on his own approach to challenges and success. He realized that wealth and influence were not guarantees of insight or understanding. The janitor's performance had revealed the importance of humility, the value of dedication, and the power of recognizing potential in others. He became more thoughtful in his interactions with employees and in the way he approached projects. The experience had changed his perspective, making him more aware of the hidden talents and contributions of people around him. It was a lesson he would carry forward, one that extended far beyond the office walls. As weeks turned into months, the janitor continued to balance work, practice, and performances. His life, while still humble, was now rich in meaning and purpose. He had discovered a new confidence, a belief in his abilities that allowed him to embrace opportunities without arrogance. He saw the impact of his music on others and understood that his passion could inspire, comfort, and encourage people in ways he had never imagined. Each note played, each melody shared, reinforced his commitment to continue learning, growing, and connecting through music. The office and the wider community began to recognize the janitor's contributions more broadly. Local schools invited him to teach children simple piano techniques, and community centers asked him to perform at events. He approached these opportunities with humility, focusing on the joy of sharing rather than the accolades. His presence inspired young musicians, showing them that dedication and passion could lead to extraordinary outcomes, even without formal training or recognition. He became a quiet symbol of perseverance and talent, an example of how one could achieve greatness through commitment and heart. The janitor's influence extended beyond music. His quiet strength, humility, and authenticity began to shape the culture around him. Colleagues became more respectful, community members more curious about hidden talents, and even the billionaire reconsidered how he valued people and their contributions. The janitor's journey became a story not only about musical excellence but about human potential, resilience, and the power of believing in oneself. In his small apartment, the janitor often reflected on how far he had come. He remembered the days when he played alone, when his only audience was the empty room and the sound of his own determination. He recalled the early mornings and late nights, the mistakes, and the small victories that had shaped his skill. These memories were a reminder that every step, no matter how humble, contributed to the journey of growth and accomplishment. The recognition he received now was meaningful, but it never overshadowed the discipline and love for music that had brought him here. The janitor also learned to navigate the balance between public attention and personal fulfillment. He understood that the world's fascination with his talent was fleeting, and he focused on what mattered most: the music itself. Each practice session, each performance, each lesson shared with others was an expression of his dedication, a way to honor the gift he had cultivated over years. The applause and admiration were appreciated, but they never became the reason he played. Music was his passion, his language, and his connection to life. Through these experiences, the janitor grew in confidence and understanding. He discovered that true fulfillment came from pursuing one's passion with sincerity, from connecting with others through shared experiences, and from embracing the journey rather than seeking validation. He realized that talent was only part of the equation. Humility, perseverance, and a willingness to share one's gifts were equally important. The challenge at the office had been a catalyst, but the lessons he learned extended far beyond a single performance. The billionaire, having witnessed the janitor's ongoing impact, began to change his approach in subtle ways. He encouraged employees to explore their skills, acknowledged contributions more openly, and sought to understand the potential in those around him. The janitor's performance had sparked a shift, not only in perception of talent but also in the culture of respect and recognition. The lesson was clear. True greatness often emerges quietly, and those who recognize it benefit from the wisdom it brings. As the story unfolded, it became evident that the janitor's journey was about more than music. It was a tale of perseverance, humility, and the quiet power of talent nurtured in obscurity. Each day, each note played, each lesson shared, reinforced the idea that greatness could exist in unexpected places. The janitor continued to inspire, not through grand gestures or loud declarations, but through consistent dedication, authenticity, and a genuine love for his craft. The ripple effects of his talent reached far beyond the office, touching lives, shaping perceptions, and leaving a lasting impression on everyone who encountered him. In this way, the janitor's life evolved. The office challenge had revealed his skill to the world, but it also revealed the character and heart behind the talent. He had stepped into a space where his abilities could be seen, yet he remained grounded, focused, and committed to his passion. His journey was ongoing, marked by growth, connection, and the quiet satisfaction of living a life devoted to something meaningful. Through music, he had found his voice, his purpose, and his place in the world, inspiring others to see the potential within themselves and those around them. Time moved on, and the janitor's life continued to change in quiet yet meaningful ways. He was no longer just a figure working in the background of the office. He had become a source of inspiration, a reminder that talent, dedication, and humility could shine even in the most unexpected places. Every day brought new opportunities to share his music, to inspire others, and to explore the depths of his own abilities. Yet he remained grounded, aware that recognition was fleeting, and that true fulfillment came from the love of his craft rather than the applause of others. The janitor's performances continued to draw attention, not because he sought fame, but because the music itself resonated with people. Small community halls, local schools, and neighborhood gatherings became stages where he could share his skill. Each audience was different, each setting unique, but the effect of his music remained the same. People were moved, inspired, and often amazed by the depth and emotion he could convey. The experience reminded him that music was a universal language, one that could reach across social and economic boundaries, connecting hearts and minds without words. As his reputation grew, so did the opportunities to influence others. Students and young musicians began to seek him out, eager to learn from someone who had achieved excellence without formal training. He welcomed them patiently, teaching not just technique, but the importance of discipline, passion, and humility. He showed them that talent alone was not enough. It required dedication and heart to truly make an impact. The lessons went beyond music, offering insights into perseverance, self-belief, and the courage to follow one's passion despite obstacles or societal expectations. The janitor also learned the importance of balance. While his music drew public attention, he remained committed to his daily routines, understanding that structure and simplicity grounded him. Cleaning the office, maintaining the building, and caring for the spaces around him were no longer mundane tasks. They became a part of his life that reminded him of the value of responsibility and consistency. He saw his work as complementary to his music, each informing the other and keeping him rooted in humility and purpose. The billionaire, who had once mocked the challenge, continued to reflect on the janitor's extraordinary talent. The performance had left a lasting impression on him, shifting his perspective on leadership, recognition, and human potential. He became more attentive to the abilities of his employees, more willing to acknowledge hidden talents, and more thoughtful in his interactions. The janitor's example had shown him that true greatness could emerge quietly, and that the recognition of it was as much a moral responsibility as a social one. The billionaire's respect for the janitor deepened, not just for his skill, but for his character and unwavering dedication. Despite the growing attention and opportunities, the janitor never let his life become defined by others' perceptions. He continued to live simply, finding joy in the small moments of his day. A quiet morning with coffee, the hum of cleaning equipment, the feeling of his fingers gliding across the piano keys. These routines grounded him, reminding him that life's beauty often lies in simplicity and consistency. The recognition he received was meaningful, but it never replaced the intrinsic satisfaction of mastery and the personal connection he felt to his music. Over time, the janitor began to compose his own pieces, drawing inspiration from his experiences, the people he encountered, and the emotions that filled his life. These compositions were shared with those around him, performed in small concerts and gatherings. Each piece carried a story, a reflection of the moments that shaped him, and a message about perseverance, hope, and the quiet power of human potential. The music became a way for him to connect more deeply with others, to inspire, and to leave a lasting impression beyond the confines of any single performance. He also became more confident in his interactions, speaking to colleagues, students, and audiences with a calm authority. People listened, not just because of his talent, but because of the authenticity and sincerity he exuded. He had learned that true influence comes from the combination of skill, humility, and integrity. His presence inspired trust and admiration, not through dominance or force, but through quiet strength and consistent dedication. In his personal life, the janitor found joy in small, meaningful connections. Neighbors, friends, and community members who had witnessed his journey reached out, sharing how his music had touched their lives. He listened, encouraged, and shared in their appreciation without ego. These interactions reminded him that the impact of his talent extended far beyond performance. It shaped lives, instilled hope, and nurtured dreams. The recognition was not just about applause or headlines. It was about touching lives and contributing positively to the world around him. The janitor's story also began to inspire discussions about opportunity and equity. People reflected on how talent often goes unrecognized due to circumstance, status, or societal assumptions. His journey became an example of how dedication and passion could overcome these barriers, and how recognition and support could amplify talent that might otherwise remain hidden. He did not seek to be a symbol, yet his life naturally encouraged reflection, inspiring others to look beyond appearances and value the skills and potential in everyone. Meanwhile, the billionaire, observing the janitor's continued success and influence, began to consider the responsibility of power and privilege. He realized that his previous approach to challenges, wealth, and recognition had been narrow, focused more on amusement and control than on understanding and encouragement. The janitor's example prompted him to foster opportunities for others, to recognize potential where it might be overlooked, and to approach life with a greater sense of humility and empathy. The ripple effect of one performance had unexpectedly influenced both the janitor and the billionaire, showing the transformative power of talent, courage, and authenticity. As years passed, the janitor's life continued to reflect the values he held dear. He maintained his commitment to music, continued to support and mentor others, and approached each day with gratitude and purpose. While he remained humble and grounded, he understood that his influence had grown, and he embraced it as a responsibility to encourage, inspire, and create positive change. His journey from a quiet, unnoticed figure to a respected and admired musician was a testament to the enduring power of perseverance, passion, and integrity. In the end, the janitor's life became a story of hope, inspiration, and the quiet strength of human potential. He had faced challenges, overcome skepticism, and shared his gift with the world, all without compromising his values or his humility. The music that had once been a private sanctuary had become a bridge to others, connecting hearts, inspiring dreams, and leaving a lasting legacy. He had shown that true greatness is not always loud or flashy, but often emerges in the dedication, authenticity, and quiet courage of those who dare to follow their passion. Through it all, the janitor remained himself, grounded, dedicated, and passionate. He understood that talent was only part of the equation. Heart, perseverance, and humility completed the picture. His life was a reminder that extraordinary skill can emerge from ordinary circumstances, that recognition should be given to those who deserve it, and that the impact of one person's dedication can ripple far beyond what anyone might expect. And in the music he created and shared, the world had a lasting testament to the power of hidden talent, perseverance, and the human spirit.